You are listening to the Love Unplugged podcast, episode 45. Today we are introducing you to the class, one of the best fitness classes I have ever experienced. Angela Hartman, senior instructor, dives deep into what we can expect from taking the class, but also how best to approach exercise, especially following a burnout, so that it sticks. Often we have the best intentions, but even I have fallen off the wagon after a period of time. So grab yourself a cup of organic tea and let's get to it. You are listening to Love Unplugged, a podcast focused on love in all its forms. I'm your host, Jessica Fergon, hopeful romantic and founder of Project Love. I found that too often love is set aside or taken for granted, and we tend to forget how to care for ourselves and our important relationships in the day-to-day chaos. So let's slow down, tune in, and begin our journey of rediscovering love. From honest heart-to-heart conversations with real couples and knowledgeable guests to deep dive reviews of new products and services that will help you feel beautiful inside and out. If you're looking for relatable advice or wanting to be inspired by real-life love stories, you've come to the right place. Without further ado, let's get to it. Hello, loves. Today I am joined by Angela Hartman. She, along with a couple of old coworkers, opened what I think is the best studio, retail shop, restaurant combo, and it's called Turf here in Vancouver, BC, which now has 2 locations. So congratulations on your new opening downtown, which I think is going to be a huge hit.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's awesome. She is also a senior The Class instructor, which is by far one of the most exhilarating fitness classes I have personally taken. I personally experienced the class myself so that we can dive deeper into the chat today. So I can, ask some questions about what you're experiencing because it's kind of hard to tell what you're stepping into when you look up the class.
Yeah.
So welcome, Angela. I'm so honored to have you as my guest, and I'm so excited to learn all about your story and advice on getting healthy. But before we start, for those that don't know you yet, I would love for you to share a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for having me, first of all. It's my first official podcast, so I'm really excited to be here with you today. I mean, who am I? It's such a funny question. It's like I'm a mom, I'm a business owner. I'm an athlete. I am a person that is committed to personal development. And, those are like titles of like who I am. And I think a good representation of like how I would spend my time. Mm-hmm. And then when I really think about like, who am I think of like, I'm a teacher. And I'm a teacher of like those who work with me. I'm a teacher of my students in the classroom. I'm a teacher of like myself. Like, what am I learning? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like how I currently like frame myself. And then just to give background for people who are like, okay, that's great, but like, what do you do or what have you done? I worked almost my entire professional career at Lululemon. So I started when I was in college here in Vancouver, and I started working part-time on the floor. And then I stayed there for 13 years, and I spent 9 of my 13 years living in the US. And I was kind of part of that big US before we went public, until we went public, push that we did in the States. So I was there for 9 years. I ran part of the US business. Yeah. And had a great time. So that's kind of what I did pre-Turf. And then, went into business with them when I came back to Vancouver. And one of the co-founders of Turf, Delaney, was my old boss. So that's kind of like this reinvention of like, deciding to kind of do something new and different and coming on board at Turf.
That's amazing. It just shows you how connections, whether it's your boss or anything like that, can turn into opportunities and relationships down the road. So always stay open.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning. Have you always been physically active?
Yeah. One of the things that I always kind of regret is that my parents didn't put me in more like organized sports. Like I kind of felt like I had to learn everything more as an adult. So I learned how to snowboard. I learned how to surf. But I was trying to think about what's my youngest memory of being active. And it wasn't really until I was like a preteen or a teenager where I really started to like go out on runs with my mom. I really got into running. We would used to go to the gym together. And that's kind of my first memory of being like really like active. So it wasn't until I was like a little bit older, but what I have always had is an energy, and like, I must have been getting that out in a different way when I was younger, but I've always had an energy. And once I felt how good it feels after like a nice long run, then my whole rest of my life has been like centered around making sure that I have that feeling of like feeling so good after I'm physically active.
If you could go back to being a kid, what would be the one sport that you would want to join?
I did them when I got older, but I wish that I actually ran like track in school versus like teaching myself when I was older and never having really a running coach. So that would be one. Or I would say surfing, because learning how to be a good surfer is very hard and it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. So it was like, if I learned when I was little, I'd be so good right now.
So far ahead of the game.
Yeah.
I did surfing in Hawaii, and obviously it's not regular surfing. It's like beginner surfing. And it was the hardest thing I have ever done.
Yeah.
You need so much upper body strength and balance because you're not kicking with your legs. That surfboard is like longer than your legs. It's all in your arms. And then once I finally caught a wave, which was the most satisfying feeling ever, just finally like getting it. But that took like 2 seconds to come in. 100%. And now you have to like paddle all the way back out against all the waves.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh my God, I can only do this like 2-3 times max. I don't know how others do it.
It definitely was the hardest sport I've ever learned. So yeah. But you know what? It's like, it was fine. And it was fine learning as an adult. And now I know how to do it, So
do you go to Tofino a lot?
I used to go to Tofino a lot. My very first house that I ever bought was in Tofino, and I spent a lot of time there. But basically, once I moved to the States, I had access to surfing. So I surfed when I lived in LA. I took a lot of vacations when I lived in New York. Like I spent my whole second maternity leave in Costa Rica. And so I was able to surf. And then now coming back, it's when I can, but I don't go that often anymore. Full disclosure.
Well, you're busy now.
I'm a busy woman right now. Yeah.
So what did you want to be when you were growing up? What was the career that you were striving towards?
Yeah, super interesting. And I think I'm a case study of why you should never make a decision when you're 16, 17, 18 about what you're going to do when you're older. But I actually went into school for criminology, super random. But I actually found it really interesting. And I found the courses that I took in school were really interesting. And I thought maybe I would go into the like police force. And I had this like full active side where I was like running marathons and really physically active. And so it was never going to happen. And it was really interest to me when I was younger. That's what I thought. But again, I don't think I'm a good example of like someone who would know what they really wanted to do when they get older,
It changes so much.
100%.
It's so hard. I find it so difficult when they're in high school nowadays and they're like, what do you want to do when you grow up? What's your career? You have to choose now. And I'm just like, I had no idea who I was at 18, 19, never mind 25. Like I'm a completely different person. I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I had to make that choice back then.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah, some people do know. And I think it's a small percentage of people, and like great for them.
Great for you.
And then I just think when I think about my lifetime and the lifetimes that I have in front of me, it's like, it's full of like transformation and change, And so this is like where I am right now. And who knows what 20 more years is going to bring. It's like, those are, anything is possible there, right?
That's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you find the class?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I was living 9 years in the States. One of my stints was 4 years in New York City. So I just had a coworker who was like, you are going to be obsessed with this class. You have to come. And I went. It was pretty underground still at that time. It was out of a little kids dance studio in Tribeca. Taryn, I think when I started, was the only teacher who was teaching, and I did love it. The class is an interesting thing, and it's really is hard to explain to someone what it is. It is an experience that you just have to kind of go and feel and see. And then even as a student, I had to go back several more times to like understand what was like happening in that room. But what I did know is that I felt great when I was there, and I wanted to like go back. So really, Taryn was my teacher. She still actually is my teacher. You know, I go on retreat with her. You know, my goal is once a year. And I do a lot of her like online stuff. And so that's kind of how I found it. And I was there for, 4 years, taking the class almost every week.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's commitment. Okay, so we're going to dive deeper into the class itself now. So it's definitely unlike anything I've ever experienced. And like you mentioned, it's hard to explain. It's definitely an experience. It's not like, bar class, you know what you're getting into. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to lie, I was terrified to go because I was going by myself and I'm like, okay, I'm going because I want to do a podcast interview with this person. I need to experience this class. I need to know what it's all about before we even talk about it, because that would make sense otherwise. But I was just like, oh no, like I have no idea what to expect. So I must say it was the most exhilarated class. Like I left there feeling insanely exhilarated. Like I was just ready for anything. Mm-hmm. And it's like a mixture of like yoga, like strength training, dance class. And then there's like a little tad of like rave in there.
Yeah, totally.
I even left there and I was like, I would love to see that teacher at a rave. To be honest, like it would be like mind blowing because it was literally like watching somebody at a rave. It was insane. So to set the scene for everybody, what you can expect when you are going to the class. So I went to the class at Turf in their studio and the one at Kits. It's very naturally lit, so no stark lighting, which I'm so for. I hate exercising in that bright white light. Someone had smudged in the room or had incense going, so I kind of want to talk a little bit about that as to what that's for and how it kind of helps, I guess. But it definitely felt good walking into that room, right? The smell of it and whatnot was really nice. There are no weights. It's all mats. It's tight. Yeah. So be careful when you bend over, because I almost went headfirst into someone's butt, which was kind of funny, but it's nice. It's not like too much. Yeah. And the room is slightly warmed. Mm-hmm. Is it actually slightly warmed, or was it because there's so many bodies in the room that it just naturally went that warm?
Yeah. It is a little bit warm because you don't want to start moving the body really cold. And so, obviously you can do that, but we're facilitating that process of warming up the body. So we put a little nice heat on, not too hot, but nice, so that the bodies can start really moving in a really beautiful way, protects from injury. And then over the course of the class, of course, as the heat builds, that's all bodies heating up the room.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the is it smudging or is it incense?
It is, we light and burn either Palo Santo or sage, and it is like smudging the room. And it's really like part of the preparation and the intention that we create in the space. As a teacher, it's part of what gets me ready to be with people in that space. And then for you, I think it was great to hear your experience of coming into that room and just, it's the heat, it's the smell, it's the light, and that whole experience and of really feeling like what I hope is taken care of.
Comforted, right? Like it was definitely comforted walking into that room. Mm-hmm. You don't feel cold, which I hate feeling cold. I'm not going to do anything when I'm cold. So that just gentle warmness, it wasn't too much or overpowering where you feel like you're going to die. It was the perfect amount of heat, which I really liked. And then it just gradually increased as the class went on, but then you adapted to it, which is really, really nice. But I definitely liked the smudging. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that. So you start the class by tapping your heels, and that felt like there was a purpose behind that tapping to the beat of the music. Mm-hmm. Is that to help with grounding, or what exactly is that for?
Yeah, so there's a few different ways you can start class. And one of them is the tapping. But I think no matter which way, whether you start in squats or even a side to side, it all is to do the same thing. And it's kind of multi-layered. So one is we do teach to the beat of music. So it is good right off the bat to like, let's start moving as a group together. We're creating something from the very first song, the very first beat together. So there is that kind of like thing that's happening in the room. And then the other part of it is moving someone out of whatever was just happening in their life into a place that's a more present in their physical body. So, I think all of us do this where we arrive somewhere, but we haven't arrived somewhere, so that whole, even I would say the first song, or sometimes even the first two songs, depending on the time of day and what day it is really about just getting people with you, warming up the body and getting us moving together as a group.
I definitely felt that energy. And you're right. When you go to a class, or usually your mind is going, you're thinking about other things. Obviously, you have tons on your plate and your to-do list. But I felt like this class made me stay present. Just the way that it was led and how it flowed from all the different sets of movements and how it paused in between them. It made me stay focused on what was happening at that time, which was really nice.
Great.
After each movement, you stopped and everyone kind of held their chest and their stomach. What does that do?
Yeah, so there is always a moment before we start transitioning where we want to bring people back. So a lot can kind of be unpacked in a sequence or a move or a song. And people can move through different things, or they can become distracted, or their mind starts telling them some kind of version or story or whatever. So it's just a coming back, a re-presencing from maybe a distraction, maybe a false story that you started to create, maybe like something that's actually you're starting to feel like you're moving through the body, like just bringing it a little bit back to home base. So that's kind of like that moment of like almost regrounding before we get into the work again.
Like, that's just crazy now that I kind of understand that. Like, you're just resetting yourself so that each set you get focused again. And you because if you continued going, you're going to get lost along the way most likely, and your brain's going to start going. But that short interval where you're having to reset every single time and just ground yourself and to get ready for that next set just made it so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
I find that's crazy. I like that. I like how that was created that way.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't speak for Taryn, as the creator of the class, of like why it was like created in the first place, from what, is probably something she just felt like she needed. And then we need what everyone needs, right? But what I do know as a student is there has been times where a whole song has gone by and I'm fully not even there, So from that perspective of just like, oh yeah, what am I really doing here? Like, let's get back to that work.
You so focus on the mind. You see that, the mind and the body. It's like a full experience rather just targeting the body itself. So how are the movements selected? So it's different for each set, which is to a different song or beat. How are they selected? How is that flow? I mean, I wasn't concentrating too much on kind of what happened first and then next and whatnot. I was just kind of feeling everything that was happening. But is it to target, a separate body part?
Just for anyone who is listening, the kind of like physical setup of the class is, as you said, it's body weight only. And we do one thing for an entire song, or maybe there's a slight change to that one thing in a song. And throughout the whole kind of like class, there is, every single class will be different. It's not the same movements. We have like a massive library of like what's possible, but there is an arc that we're following. And in each class, you're going to get muscle contraction moves, which is like some of the work, and then the cardio, like flushing of the body. And so, we're working with getting the muscle groups going, getting into like the work of that, and then, into the cardio and flushing whatever energy that was, whatever that was, flushing it out of the system. So it is about like following the proper arc of class. And
Okay.
throughout the class, you know, as teachers, we're going to think about which body parts have we already touched. We don't want to overuse. We want to build a balanced class. So like, it's not going to be too much of this or that. It's going to, you know, hopefully represent engagement of the whole body by the end of the class. So that's the goal.
That makes sense. One part that I really struggled with during the class was how everybody just kind of vocalized what they were releasing, which to me, I was new to that type of experience. And, you know, coming from different types of classes, it's very quiet and you just listen to the instructor and there's music going and whatnot. But they were really physically releasing vocally what they were feeling and just pushing themselves through those sets. And I didn't know, like, should I be screaming? Can I scream? Do I feel comfortable screaming? Like, is that something that the class is intending the participants to do, or is it based on each individual person?
Yeah. I mean, I would say for me, it is important to create an environment where people feel very comfortable and safe. So using the vocality, like the fluttering of the lips, the heavy breathing, the sighing, or, you know, different like noises is a way for a student to move something in the body that can feel stuck.
Gotcha.
So it can be that experience for them of like letting go, or sometimes I even think like maybe physically they don't feel like they need to scream, but it could actually even be just from like an ego, like what's holding you back from even being able to do that. So it's also like, I think about self-expression and like getting fully free in how you want to show up, you know? So you don't have to, it's not a rule. You don't have to make sound. I think as students come more and more often, they get more and more comfortable with the sound. And then once you do it and you practice with it, it's actually really impossible to go back to not having like a heavy sigh at the end of something that felt hard, or moving through something that felt like you needed the voice. It's like you use that tool now. And for me, it was like a tool in my toolbox, and I use it all the time. Sometimes when I'm driving, I flutter my lips, like, and you feel different in your body when you're able to express that way.
I love that. And I definitely want to go back and try to do it, because it felt liberating for them.
Yeah.
Like, even though like myself, I was like, oh, I don't know if I could do that, but it felt good.
Yeah.
Like I can't even imagine what it felt like in their body being able to like let that out. So that's pretty cool. Okay. So for people attending the class regularly, obviously, so that they see results, what exactly can they expect to see?
The biggest things that people tell me like after class is something like, oh, I needed that. And I don't think that they're talking about like the glute work that we did, but they needed to move through like something that happened in their day. So I actually think when I think of like, what are you getting? What you're getting is an emotional experience, a shifting in how you're feeling. It can be a release for people. And then if you're just talking like physically, like what are you going to get? You know, it's a full body workout. There is, or there can be, a lot of cardio. So for me as a longtime runner, I've fully maintained my cardio, even though I don't run that much anymore. So there's a lot of cardio work in there. And then the way that we do one thing for a long period of time, that's really like working on like endurance, right? And so when you think about endurance, is like, it's really creating strength in like a really like lean way, because you're just doing one thing for a really long time. So yeah.
I love that. Okay. For people wanting to start a fitness routine, so they haven't been going, maybe they've been too busy and now it's the time, which is never too late. What is the best way for them to start, especially with the class?
Yeah. I mean, I wish there was like some magic answer, and I don't think there is. I think that results come from where you put in the work. Most of the time when I'm rolling out of bed or even going to teach at night, it's like, I don't feel like it either, but I still do it. And so I think if I just think about my routine, what I could recommend is, I think that there needs to be a lot of variety. And one of the reasons that we created the studio schedule at Turf, and it has all different things, strength training, it has the class, it has Pilates, it has yoga, is my personal belief is that the body, even if it's something you love, the body needs to do a lot of different things to get out of any injuries or, not ignore some parts of the body. So I guess my advice would be to look at your whole week and be like, okay, am I getting all the things that I need? Am I getting my strength training? Am I getting my cardio? Am I getting that thing that I love to do? Am I meditating? Am I doing yoga? So I would look at it from that perspective. And I just think you have to put in the work just like everything else,
It's true. It's not just going to magically appear.
Absolutely. If it did, it'd be like so easy for us all. Yeah.
So when we're experiencing a burnout, which a lot of us do as entrepreneurs and business owners and whatnot, how do we best approach exercise following a burnout without, causing a deeper burnout?
Yeah, I think all of us need to cultivate an awareness of ourselves. And I think that we need to move and still do things. And we need to know for ourselves, is today the day that I get out in nature and I take a walk? Or is today the day that I'm doing my freaking 10 out of 10 workout that's the hardest one of the week? Or is today a rest day? Or what is needed? Mm-hmm. And every day is different and every week is different. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of cultivating in yourself, what do I actually need? Because there can be diminishing returns if you're dealing with serious adrenal fatigue and then you're still trying to push it. Plus you're not getting enough sleep, plus whatever. It's just a recipe for disaster, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important for all of us in our routines to be really clear is that what I need today? And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't.
Do you think the class is intermediate or maybe not for beginners that are just coming out of a burnout and that maybe need to take small steps into getting back into a fitness routine? Or
I don't think so. I mean, the class is for every level, every body, every skill. We have a lot of people that are coming back from having babies. We have injuries. And that's, again, it's an awareness of your body and knowing where am I doing the modification. And, for me, I taught last night and then this morning I went and did the class and I modified my entire burpee. I didn't need to do a burpee today. I did a very vigorous one last night, but I needed some other things that I was going to get out of the class. And so I just modified the whole time. And that's what you should do. And it's not don't come to the class because we burpee. No, there's actually 3 different options for you to do the burpee. And if you don't like any of those, you can choose one of, that feels good for you. Mm-hmm. So the class has a certain vigor to it, and that is intentional. And, one of the things that I say a lot in my classes is if we just all did the thing we already knew how to do, it's we'd learn nothing today. Mm-hmm. And we're not really here to do that, right? We're really here to create something different. And so it does have something that is going to feel, whatever your fitness level, you're kind of pushing up against something, and that's intentional. Right? So we can get to the other side of that together.
As soon as you said burpee, I was like, oh yeah, that's what I've been blocking out.
Yeah.
Yes, we did do burpees and I hated it afterwards. I'm like, oh my God, that was so hard.
Yeah.
But it's so good.
It's so funny. It's the thing that people always hate at the beginning and always love at the end. In terms of not the same class, but after they start coming time and time again, it's they used to hate it and now it's their favorite part of class.
It's satisfying when you get through that set and you didn't have to stop.
Yeah.
It's good. So I want to talk about your self-care and your self-love routine and what that looks like for you.
Yeah. I, just like everything I feel like I've been saying, and maybe just because there's been so much change in my life in the last 5 years, is I always feel like I'm on a journey of what that is for me in that moment. So for me, getting ready to open this second Turf, I really have been feeling called to my meditation practice. And so around Christmas time, actually, even if I backtracked, I've really been called to my meditation practice for like a few years. And I've never like fully like stuck with it. I've had like stints, and then I'm on and off again with my meditation. And finally around Christmas time, I just was like, I'm just going to meditate every day. And if that is 10 minutes and it's like I'm almost falling asleep in my bed, but I'm still doing it, then that's what I'm going to do. And so I'm on day 62.
Oh, wow. Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
That's commitment.
It is commitment. And I like sometimes don't even know. I'm like, is this working? Like, sometimes it's like half the time I don't want to. Like, I don't know if I see any difference. But I'm really committed to like following through with the practice and being on the journey of what my meditation practice is. So right now I'm really focused on that. The other thing that I think about for myself is because I'm physical, not just in my teaching, but actually just even working at Turf. Like if you ever just have been in there, it's like we walk like 10 miles a day in there, and it has a certain energy, and there's a certain energy that I put out in the world every day. And so for me, I always try and think of every week, what can I do to like support my physical body? So do I need to go to the chiropractor? Do I need to get a massage? Am I running across the street to FIG and getting a facial? Am I doing the infrared sauna at Hulsa? Like every week I try and just pick what does it feel like I need, and dedicate time and resources to that thing. And sometimes literally it's my day off and I like go upstairs in my room and I'm on my like physio foam roller and I have a mask on, and that's what it is that week. But I try every week to do something.
You just tune into yourself and what you actually need.
Yeah.
I love that. So I want to talk about Turf.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's definitely one of my favorite places. How did you join forces with your old coworkers and your boss? Really? And how did this idea for Turf come, and what is your role in it?
Well, I can't take credit for the idea of Turf. That was really Delaney and Deanne, who are co-owners of Turf. It was really their idea. And what I do know for myself is that I spent a lot of time with Delaney when we were in the States together, and we traveled a lot. I was on a plane or sometimes train or traveling 3 weeks out of every month. Not for the whole week, but just so a lot of, traveling around and working. And it felt always like something had to compromise for us. Like, if you were wanting to get up in the morning and plan like, okay, I have to grab the best coffee, a really healthy meal, and get a workout in, we never had time to do everything before the workday started. So it always felt like giving up something. Mm-hmm. And it felt like these were the foundations for creating a like great day. Mm-hmm. So that's what I felt like my experience of like bringing these three things together. I was like, yeah, it does feel like a compromise. It does feel like we can't get all the things we need. So is it possible to get the amazing coffee, not in the donut, shop or the croissant place, but in a place where I can get a really healthy breakfast at the same time, in the place that I can get a really amazing class, and in the place that I can like hang out and connect with people like before or after that experience, So that was kind of the idea that Deanne and Delaney came up with the idea. And then I always like to say they just recruited me. I was moving back to Vancouver and we started talking pretty early on in the process. And I knew it was like, I knew it was the right place for me. I knew that these were the right people for me to be spending time with. And so it was like, it was always a yes, there was awesome. No hesitation. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what can somebody expect when they're visiting Turf?
Yeah.
So what kind of foods do you guys offer? What does the retail shop, provide, and products that they can probably find there? And you touched a little bit already on the different classes, and you try to mix it up with, the different offerings that you have. But what about everything else?
Yeah. So, okay. So the menu is plant-based, and we do have proteins that people can add on, whether it's a plant protein or an animal protein that you can put on anything in the menu. And the goal was really that we were a place not just for vegans, we were a place for everybody. And that could we support people in eating more plants, and maybe even the non-vegan could see over time that maybe they didn't need as much maybe animal protein as they thought they needed, that actually this meal that they had was full and complete and they feel great. So the menu is local. It's seasonal. We do a big menu change twice a year. So fall, winter menu, and then the spring, summer menu. And the food is amazing.
It is. I'm not gonna lie.
It's a big draw. I'm not gonna lie either. Yeah, and it really is on the foundation of like feeling good. Everything is like we want to feel good,
Yeah, definitely. What about the products in the retail shop?
Yeah.
So what's all included in there?
Yeah, so the shop is small. It is 300 square feet, I think. And what we knew to be true for ourselves was that we didn't need more stuff. Mm-hmm. But what we did need was like quality things that all work together, that were kind of timeless, that worked in our lifestyle and could easily be like incorporated into what we already had. So the goal with the shop is that from the brands that we carry to the own Turf branded product is that we want to save our guests time. We want them to feel like really pulled together and feeling good after they work out without it being too like finicky. Mm-hmm. It's easy, but you're pulled together, and it's timeless and it's quality. So you can have it for a really long time.
Awesome. So there's like yoga wear there. You can find, I think, Vela deodorants are there.
Yeah.
So lots of local products there as well.
Yeah. There's like the beauty product is all, no chemicals, no fillers, no artificial scents in anything. And that product all does really well at Turf. I mean, I think people know now that, your deodorant shouldn't have aluminum in it. So yeah, we have that kind of product. And then we have activewear, and then stuff you would like literally throw on after and you're going to like run to work or something like that.
Awesome. All right. So let's talk about the downtown location.
Yeah.
It just opened this month.
It did. February 10th.
Yes, February 10th.
Yeah.
So what has that whole experience been like, opening up a second location downtown, which is insane?
Yeah.
What has that experience been like?
I mean, it's been amazing. It really does feel like birthing a second child, and so many things go into doing something like that, from like the design to the people who built it, to the teachers, to the training and the managers and the guests, like all our regular, like diehard Kitsilano people coming downtown and visiting us. And so it's been a lot of hard work. It has been some tears, speak for myself, some tears. It's been like really feels so good and happy when I'm there. Mm-hmm. And, there's still so much that we want to do. Like we're just starting to meet people that actually live there. And so really building the same community that we built in Kits now in this downtown location is like, it's so exciting.
Downtown definitely needed a place like Turf. So I'm super excited to go visit it myself.
Yeah.
Are you now kind of stationed out of that location more so, or are you sticking to Kitsilano?
Yeah, I'm in both. Okay. So I kind of like hover back and forth a little bit, wherever the business needs me to be. So yeah, you can catch me downtown. You can catch me at Kits. Yeah, I teach at both.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we do have some rapid fire questions, but before we do that, I just want to thank you for taking the time to join me today and to be a guest on my podcast. I think the class is amazing. Turf is amazing. I think your energy is just so like alive and just happy. It's amazing. I love you. So I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
It's from one of my favorite companies, local companies here, Roche. I'm a huge tea drinker myself. So, going to the grocery store and seeing the 10 billion brands that they have out there that really offer no health benefits. It's more like tea powder, really, that you're drinking. I loved finding Roche because it's organic, real, like loose leaf tea, and it's the only tea company that I've actually felt the benefits.
Oh,
like
that's
the health
awesome.
benefits.
Well, thank you for sharing your
So you
favorite
got,
with me. I will
Think, which is really good.
Yeah.
And then Digest.
Okay, great.
I hope you'll love.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
No problem. So last questions here is the rapid fire questions from the community. So
Okay.
they had some questions for you. First one being, does your heart rate have to be up to lose weight?
Good question. It doesn't. And actually, there's a lot of like lower heart rate activities that get you in like that like fat burning zone. So it's kind of interesting. And what I would say is that if your goal is losing weight, you kind of have to do all the things. It's kind of what I was saying. It's like you need some strength training. You do need cardio, and some of it is going to be hard. And then some of it is going to be your heart rate isn't as high. And then of course it's what you eat and like it's how much you sleep and like all the things,
Everything all
it's
in one.
everything all in one. I think the most important thing that I've learned for myself is that I don't need to operate 10 out of 10 all the time. That is actually working backwards. And so there is this whole, recovery and recovering the heart rate. And when you work out really, really hard, what does the next day supposed to look like? A lot of different types of activities could probably bring like the best reward.
Gotcha. Okay. I like that answer. What is the best exercise to tone your tush? So this is a big one for us women. I know for me specifically.
Yeah, no one's going to want to know the answer. I'm guessing. So I am not a, scientist. But what I would say is heavy weighted squats. Yeah.
Darn squats. I was hoping for a different answer.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. What is your favorite meal from Turf? So what do you recommend for someone new coming to try?
So many good things. I love the Harvest Bowl, which is on the menu right now. It has lots of root vegetables in it. Lentils are homemade. Vegan Gorgonzola cheese is in it. It's very good. I also eat like on the daily. I don't usually eat like a big bowl like that. I would eat like the cauliflower steak and the sweet potato wedges or the chili broccoli with half of a salad or something like that. So that's kind of more how I would eat on like the day to day. But honestly, everything is good. Like the burger, which is a vegan burger that we make 100% ourselves. It's amazing. So there's a lot. Yeah, it's amazing. So there's a lot of good stuff on the menu. And then, for the less adventurous, it's like avo toast or like something like that is always a winner as well.
There's that mushroom one.
The mushroom and vegan ricotta.
Oh my
also
God.
A fan favorite. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. All right, last one. What is your go-to health snack? So instead of pulling out the cookies or...
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question. Sometimes I'm just open the fridge door and it's like, honestly, I'm so boring. It's like carrot sticks or peanut butter on celery, apples with peanut butter, like kind of anything like that. It's a quick, easy, like that kind of stuff. I can just like pull it out of my refrigerator.
I definitely agree with the peanut butter. All right. So if anybody wants to learn more about you, where can they connect with you?
Yeah. Well, the best place to find me is always going to be at Turf.
Of course.
But you can also follow me on Instagram. It's Ange, ANGE _Hartman, HARTMAN. Instagram's the only like social that I'm really like active on. I can only have enough time to like maintain one thing. And so I do answer every person who messages me. So I'd love to hear from people on Instagram if they want, or they can come by for a class. They can come by and visit me in the space. I'd love to have you.
I definitely recommend that you guys go and try the class.
Yeah.
It's definitely something different that you wouldn't have experienced before, and it's very freeing.
Yeah. Great.
So thank you, Ange, for taking the time to share your story with us, but as well for giving us an inside look into one of the best fitness classes that I've ever experienced. I highly encourage everyone to go out and try it and to also visit Turf, specifically the downtown location. And maybe try the Glow smoothie because it's my favorite. It's
very good.
So good.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I'm Jessica, and thanks for tuning in today to Love Unplugged, the podcast. If there are any questions or topics you'd love answered on the show, head on over to www.projectloveco.com and share your request with me. If you haven't yet, go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast and share it with a loved one. Your feedback means the world to me, and the community we've created is what fuels our discussions here. After all, this is all for you. Join me next time for another unplugged conversation.